Okay. How does it feel actually? Let me start there.
Yeah.
How does it feel to not be hosting? It's just be a guest for once.
It's so funny because I genuinely was relieved. I was like, man, I want the weight off my shoulders, and it's nice to just be like, hey, can you come and talk? And it's like, is that it? That's all I need to do. It's like, yes.
It's a lot less pressure.
Yeah. You don't need to think about stuff. You don't need to plan or organize. I mean, how this turns out is now on your shoulders and not mine, which is great.
No pressure, anything.
I mean, I'll help you along.
The next question I have for you is to actually talk about the Humana podcast.
Yeah.
Can we somewhat get a picture as to how you got started?
Oh, so much like what we spoke about maintaining masks, is that I just wanted people to feel much more comfortable to let those masks down. Yeah. So I see it with immediate friends, but I've never put it openly out there. So it's risky because we know that when you're in your little friend group and everyone's themselves, it's like, it's great, but no one's explicitly said to the world, I'm kind of sick of pretending outside of my small group. I would like to be myself there and elsewhere. And I don't need your permission as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's risky, but you just do it. How long can you keep pretending? I mean, it's my life.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the longer you keep pretending, the longer you just end up hurting yourself and wasting time that you could have had just being you.
Yeah, absolutely. The scary thing about, I always say how short life is. Years go by and you can look back and say, well, what did I do last year that was significant? And it's like, you might struggle to find things. You've got your stuff that you're doing, but really, really impactful stuff, not much happening. But long term, you can see that you've grown and you've done these things, but yeah. Actually forgot, what were you originally asking about there?
What got you motivated to start the podcast?
Right. Yeah, so I would say related to that topic is that I would like to leave something behind, at least for the university. Also, so we have student wellness and we have support for students that are struggling, and it's no secret, like studying is incredibly difficult. And now my personal story is like, I've dropped out 3 times before finally getting my bachelor's degree. So I feel quite sort of responsible to try and help students not drop out like that, because that journey, that pain, I think it's unnecessary. If I had someone along my journey to keep me going, perhaps I wouldn't have dropped out that much. And it's really painful to think maybe I don't deserve what I'm trying to get. That is a hard thing to digest. And the weirdest thing is that if you keep trying, eventually you do get it. But at what point do you say, maybe I'm reaching too high? And personally, I don't think there's a limit. You can reach as high as you need to. It's now, I'm starting to think, a matter of support systems and people in place who are catching these things early.
Yeah.
So students who are already struggling in first term, when the exam is at the end of the year, you can catch that.
Definitely.
But are there
the better.
systems, exactly, but are there places and systems that will pick it up? I'm not so sure. So, you could say the whole project is also trying to expose that risk and what we can start putting in place to help students before they suddenly drop out, their life falls apart. Family's angry with them, questioning why they're even alive anymore. That's preventable kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's real things that people go through,
Yeah.
but they don't have the right direction as to how to handle it.
Yeah. Well, to be totally honest, it's not just the people. I think broadly we struggle to deal with that kind of stuff. we'd rather send them to a professional, and that's like the go-to thing that we do. And I understand why we do that, because there's risks involved, and you don't know how to treat it. But you are also a person who has your own struggles. So never ever discount your capacity to relate to someone. If your struggles are slightly different to mine, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you can still share them. So when the danger is that when, let's say, someone tells you, okay, here's the contact number for someone you should reach out for, but I can't help you. You know, that kind of stuff really makes someone feel unwanted. Or maybe, I mean, like an outsider, I would say. Because if these conversations are not allowed to a general human being, and we have to hide away in a room to have that conversation, and all the conversation is, hi, I'm a human, I'm struggling with this. A lot of other humans struggle with this, but I have to pretend like that's not true and it's only me, and I'm going to hide away in the room and talk to you about it. And as soon as I leave that door, pretend that the problem doesn't exist anymore and put on that other mask. I've, believe it or not, I've done that for a couple of years. So I've experienced this. I mean, why is it so hard to just be yourself? Why it doesn't need to be that hard? But I've experienced this where you, into the room, talk, leave the room, mask back up. And you look forward to the 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month, where you finally get to tell someone what you're going through. That is, I'm sorry. I mean, I hope I'm not the only person that thinks that's just absurd.
It is. But I feel like it links back to what you're saying earlier about the stigma, especially when it comes to males.
Yeah.
Because there are people that are willing to listen. But as guys, a lot of time we have the fear to open up in the first place.
Yeah. I'd say that I've definitely lived that side of it for a long time, years. I'm almost 30, and it's like, if I've reached the point now, not just for this project, but even other things, it's like, if you keep observing something that is wrong in society and you keep ignoring it, and you don't do anything to address it, and yet you know that there's something you could do, who's to blame at that point? It's a lot of people letting it continue. So, I could just not do anything, that would be fine. And I could just not share my story, and we can all just, crawl up into a little ball and hide. But now, if I imagine that there are students failing and potentially suicidal, because we also, and this is a sensitive topic, so we're going to put a disclaimer on it at the beginning. Yeah. Students are passing away potentially from this kind of stuff, and preventable. And if I have to be that person, I will be that person now. And it's not just this kind of stuff. It's like, I am sick of observing problems in the wider society and just pretending like we're helpless. But we're not. Something can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing what you did study before? And how did you get to your bachelor's?
Okay. So, I did a lot of sport when I was in high school. So I went into sports science in Stellenbosch. Admittedly, I partied too much. So I do sympathize. Well, look, should you sympathize with students that party too much and then fail? I think you should. Because it's your first taste of freedom, and the temptation to not study is like everywhere. Like, what is there any reason to study when you've left high school and suddenly you're just an adult with far too many freedoms? And unfortunately, I was one of those. So dropped out, and then I tried BCom business management. I did a bit more than a year in that, but I found it a bit boring, I think. And then I tried BCom law with UNISA. Law was pretty interesting to me. So this is where probably got my first taste of like this kind of ethical debates and arguments about right and wrong, and also my interest in philosophy started. So I did quite well, but I did not pass the entire degree. So to be honest, the flaw in our tertiary education, as far as I can see, is that if you do a lot of studying, but you never do the full course, you get nothing out of it. And so after dropping out 3 times, it's like I've actually studied even slightly more than a bachelor's degree, almost up to honors level if you add up. It's a year here, a year and a half here, 2 years here. But I had nothing to hold for it. And yet, just like, well, I definitely had the intelligence. So it was hard for me to digest how on earth we have this system that doesn't reward someone who's putting in the actual work and the hours, and some of those really good marks, but no paper in return. So I did feel like for a very long time like I would never ever qualify, never. And at that point, it's like drop out, rock bottom, drop out, rock bottom. Drop out, rock bottom, and then it's like I should maybe change my priorities, and should I go to trade school? Maybe I don't deserve a degree, so I generally thought I was actually stupid, too emotional, who knows what else. And the 4th time was the BSc in Construction Studies at UCT, and I look back on the emails because before I enrolled, I was already asking, can I pass this degree? Do you think I could do this? How can I? I started preparing before I even got into the degree because my mindset was danger. I'm going to fail. I'll drop out. So I started studying Khan Academy, started studying at grade level mathematics, got some past papers from the government website. So relearning all the basics that students do when they're in matric, which I had now forgotten because I was like 26. So when you're in the working environment, you don't really get exposed to like all of that. So now first year in BSc Construction Studies, I had to do calculus again, all that. It's like, to be honest, I don't see the point. Do it. Okay, tick that box, Khan Academy, from grade 11. So you really have to humble yourself all over again. You're like, not this again.
It sounds like a lot of effort to go through.
Yeah, and a lot of build up, breakdown, build up, breakdown. It's like after all of that, you realize that you're capable of as much as your work ethic dictates.
Yeah.
And past that, there's an element of, I would say, maybe luck. And past that, it's your capacity to endure pain. Yeah. And that's actually...
Yeah, you need strength.
I might have had the first 2, so work ethic and luck, but the pain I struggle with and the rejection. So the first sense that I'm going to fail or I get a bad mark back hurts me deeply. It feels like a judgment on my character. So I attach, most of the stuff I do, I attach my personal value to it. So getting, sort of judged as like, oh, this is bad, this is wrong. And I don't really know how to continue with a course that's already judging me as like, substandard. So the flip side now is that the fear of that has driven me, like into the stratosphere. It's like now I study nonstop. So potentially, society thinks it's better that I study nonstop and I get distinctions for everything. But the reality is that's not any better, really. It's not any better.
Can't have too much of a good thing.
Of course. So on paper, I've had to go, well, okay, not studying, not enduring this hardship, you're going to drop out and fail. And that's not good. But you need the paper, you need the distinctions because the world values that. So I can do that. But you choose that route and it's quite lonely. You spend a lot of hours alone. You're gonna cry because of the pain. It's late nights, it's early mornings. It's like you cannot work anymore, and you have to find that little bit inside you to put in the last little effort. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You'll be sleep deprived for weeks, and I don't see why we should reward that, to be totally honest. Because me, the guy who dropped out 3 times, he was enough. He was enough. We could have kept him going. We could have given him a degree. We could have given him a 60% for that degree. But instead, we didn't. I don't think we have, like I said, the systems in place to catch these things early. So instead, we created a monster.
Yes, interesting. A monster.
And so a lot of people you shouldn't work so hard. You should slow down. You shouldn't take things so seriously. You're going to burn out. These are now new problems for me. And it's interesting to go from, I was like an absolute nobody 5 years ago to now. It looks pretty good on paper, what I've done, what I've built for myself. But is it any better? Have I, I'm just sort of trying to play the game that everyone else has said I should play. So I changed myself. You want me to pass, I'll pass. But I said no. It's kind of like a big middle finger to the world, because here I am now doing it and doing it better than I need to. And there's no reason for me to do that, but it's more also of proving that I can do it, proving myself wrong. So you have your judgments before you try anything. You say, I'm probably going to fail something. If it's something significant and it's big, you will have that fear.
Yeah.
So you can just try it and you'll pass, but why not just try it and be exceptional at it? Go further than you could, and then it's like there's absolutely no doubt that you deserve what you did.
The question I have for that, though, is it worth it? Because there's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
There's only so far you can go before it's not worth it anymore. It's just killing you.
I love that that sort of idea that it's... So to go from, let's say, 60% to 70%, if you're talking about marks here, but really anything in life, it's exponentially harder to reach. And then if you want that 90%, it's like, oh my goodness, you have to do 3 times the amount of work, 4 times the amount of work. Yeah. It's not really worth it. I don't think it's worth it.
It's really not. It's not. I can say that from my perspective too. It's not worth it.
Yeah. You lose yourself in it. You absolutely, it'll drive you insane. And there are many things that are not in your control. So even if you do that, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get those results.
Yeah, it's like you can study the whole night for like 3 weeks, and then the lecturer pulls this paper and questions you've never seen.
Absolutely.
And then you get 20%. Now you feel bad about it, but there's literally nothing you could have done differently.
Yeah. I suppose you can trust the system that will, if, let's say, everyone is failing, it's very clearly that they will adjust the way that they're assessing. And if you're in, so it's just about where you are in the pack. If you're in the pack and you're ahead of everyone, good for you. You're not in the danger zone. If you find yourself right at the back of the pack, you're in danger. And I've been there too. So I've been at the back of the pack, I've been at the front of the pack. And I find, and I always say this to people who are struggling, right? It's way easier at the front of the pack. If you're at the back, you got things like you're going to have sleepless nights right before due date. You're always looking over your shoulder because you have doubts. You're going to pass, you're going to fail. Like, you don't want to be in that space. So for me, it's almost easier to just do the extra work to be at the front of the pack than to be at the back. But now, generally speaking, if the entire pack is struggling, then there's a system-wide problem here, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's the same for workplaces, it's the same for families. It's like and then you go down to the root cause of what's happening and try and address that. Yeah.
The next question I have for you is between now and the time you started studying your first degree. I'm assuming you've had some practical work experience, like you weren't just studying the whole time. What are some jobs or experiences you had?
Okay. So during sports science, I've done some stand-up paddleboarding as an instructor, and then later on I was a store manager. Electromuscle therapy, it's actually quite fun, by the way, if anyone's tried that out. Painful, but it's fun. So you're like a personal trainer, and you sort of play with the dials. They've got these straps on, and basically the reason why your muscles contract is because an electrical impulse sent from your brain flex the muscle.
Yeah.
Now we can hack that because humans, we hack everything. So you put the little bands on there, you put an electrolyte, it's just water, to allow the current to pass through the material onto your skin. And it'll just contract like this. You won't be sending the signal, you'll have no control. And I play with the dials like I'm playing here, like a DJ. But it'll be your body.
It doesn't feel painful though, electrical shocks?
Yeah, so you definitely have to watch the person's response to it because we all have different pain thresholds. I mean, I've got tattoos, so my pain threshold is through the roof. But when you're training someone, you make sure they're definitely not going past that. That's too far. So what I found when you're training with guys, it's they'll go with you right to the edge, and they'll kill themselves for you. I want to get the most out of someone, so I'll get them worked up. And there've been times where you train them too much, and then you know that you've gone too far. So knowing one's limit, it's easier for you, but when you're around people, you try and perform above that. And especially with the electrical stuff, it's like you're training twice as much as you should. You sort of like know your limits. Yeah. Okay, and after that, I mean, hospitality industry, waitering, delivery driving. I was in facial recognition at one point. Construction-wise, I've done a lot more in construction. So I started out as manual laborer and sort of site admin. Mm-hmm. Then I've done like painting, handyman work, a bit of bricklaying, like a lot of the boots on the ground level construction work. And then up from that was like supervisor of a small team, a bit of health and safety, and then also technology I'm quite interested in, because generally I would say there's quite a big gap in the industry, is that there's not a lot of tech adoption in the construction industry. It's sort of ripe for something, or things in general, right?
Yeah.
Basics. I'm not even talking like advanced technology, but I'm
actually surprised to hear that.
Yeah. The average construction site, the most technology you would probably find is just a cell phone. That's about it. And the thing that they use for setting up a datum line along the wall. So datum line is just a reference line where they say, okay, this is a 1 meter line, and we're working from this as the rule of thumb. Okay. And everyone works down or up from that. But generally, I think compared to other parts of the world, we're quite behind in that regard. But we have a distributor, so it's like software stuff. So I work with Agile. So they are in Stellenbosch. Mm-hmm. But yeah, between them and the part-time work that I do on VAC, I've done quite a bit in construction. But I would say lower management, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I see the chaos that no one wants to see. Yeah.
Do you have any examples you'd like to share? Or is that a bit touchy?
No, I can share. I mean, it's all about like managing resources. So right stuff at the right place at the right time. And I found a lot of difficulties have come with working with people. And the reason being, you have to try and incentivize people where they're not being rewarded how they should be. And that's hard as a manager. Because, to incentivize someone that's getting paid what they should get paid is quite easy. Yeah. But to make a team work very hard, even when they're doing overtime, over public holiday or something, and they're not getting paid enough. I tell you, that's probably one of the hardest things you could ask someone of. It's like I even feel guilty trying to motivate a team when really the correct response would be to not be motivated.
Yeah, understandably so.
That is it's a normal reaction, but you'll keep. So I found a lot of difficulty in trying to get. I mean, it's just how our industry has been geared towards. It's this big thing where we have a lot of money at the top. It trickles down and gets it gets more and more diluted, and eventually you get to the bottom where the guy's actually doing the work, and really you should be rewarding them because that's the people doing the stuff, and we don't do that. And I'm actually quite shocked by what I've seen.
Yeah,
because it's not just that we don't reward them financially. I would say there's even shortcuts in stuff like health and safety, basic sort of like overtime pay. I'd even say respect-wise, and upskilling and growing and promotion, and it's not a hugely difficult thing for an industry to do. Well, I mean, clearly it is because we don't do it, but I've seen probably the most rewarding times in my career was when I managed to break that cycle. Mm-hmm. So potentially upskilling someone so they get promoted in an industry that doesn't do that. I mean, that to me is exciting. But it's breaking the rules. Because when you promote someone, you have to pay them more.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. Because there's only a certain amount of money that actually ends at the bottom, the boots on the ground level. And it serves this big monster that we've created, that we have a lot of cheap labor. This is how we work. And there's no other way of putting it. Yeah. So when we have this massive unemployment, a lot of people want to enter the job market. The ball is in the employer's court. They're like, all the power is there. Anyone at the lower level of management, and even at labor level, can be replaced in an instant. Where's the incentive to treat anyone with respect? The only incentive is that you should be a human with some humanity in you. That's the only incentive at this point, and I haven't seen that. Not too much. I might have seen one good site, but largely, quite. And that's partly why I'm trying to get out.
Okay. Definitely sounds like you've seen quite the bit you're not happy with in the construction industry.
No, I'm not. And it would be a different story if it was just me, but it's quite a widespread issue. There's the bigger problems in the industry than my little experiences, like whilst I was studying. And I'm actually incredibly grateful that I'm not trapped in it. I really feel for the guys who this is their career. They've spent 20 or 30 years. They've never had a chance to upskill themselves. The employer doesn't actively let them train. And now you've done the same bricklaying job for 30 years. Now you're 50. I don't really know what your opportunities are from there. That feels, I don't want to say it, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's very, it's not a nice thing to picture, damn.
And I've worked alongside these guys, and just, obviously, I'm grateful that I was studying at the time, so I always had that, and I knew that this wasn't it for me.
Yeah.
And, just to enter those spaces, and they were always more than happy to teach you, which is absolutely phenomenal, because sometimes you'll struggle to get information out of a lecturer. But the guy who's working ridiculous hours and definitely not getting rewarded how he should be, he will tell you stuff that you can't get anywhere else. You won't find on the internet, but he'll show you how to lay bricks, teach you how to cast concrete, teach you anything. generally the nicest. I mean, there are great people out there on these construction sites, and I have a lot of love for them. Hardworking, even in the rain. It's like sometimes it doesn't matter what weather it is. And then we sort of, I would sort of forget about them. Yeah.
But yeah, we need them. Like none of this would even be here without them.
Yeah. I'm not sure how we do more. I mean, it's one thing to complain about it, but what do we do about it? I'm not really sure. We do have regulations in place, and people are tasked with trying to control this. So I suppose we just trust that, it will come around, or they would get it under control. But we definitely need to pay our respects next time you're walking by and there's some construction workers. It's like, that is a rough lifestyle. Long hours, you're exhausted, you're in pain. And, we just walk past.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we walked here in the rain. It was like, I'm not happy walking in the rain. It's like not great. Yeah, some guys are working in the rain, and you see them. You'll walk past them, and they're doing the work. They're keeping society running. We owe everything that is around us to these incredibly hardworking men and female, and they are dedicated to their jobs. And despite us not sort of appreciating them as much as we should, they still do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
From the different jobs that you've worked and experiences you've had, how would you say it's shaped or changed the direction you've gone and decided to study here, do this, do that?
Yeah. I think for a long time I thought I had to do something for other people, or I had to do something because of the pressure. So I've stopped trying to act out of that desperation to satisfy whatever demand, whatever pressure I have on me. If it's family related, if it's society related, it's now I'm starting to now do what I want to do. And there's a type of freedom that I can't really describe. But once you realize that the power is in your hands, and I think the key was for me to get the degree, to realize that I can do anything. And now the next question is, what is important to me?
Yeah.
Because I ticked that box, I got the degree, I've got the paper, doors will open. I can now wave it around and say, well, I can overcome hardship. So the next thing is, what is a worthy cause to commit yourself to?
Yeah.
So that's the new direction, is what is that cause? And I need to find it. Yeah.
It's a big thing to do, but it's necessary. Like the next step.
It's different to you just doing something because you feel like you got to do it. I mean, I could have carried on construction. I just wasn't so happy. Did my honors in material science. We're now getting through that now. Still not feeling it. But what we've started now with this, it feels good. Mm-hmm. It feels better than anything. I mean, like my undergrad degree didn't feel like much to me. I got a really good reference letter from a lecturer literally today, actually.
Yeah.
That felt like a lot.
Yeah.
I shed a tear. It was because I thought no one was seeing me, all the effort. And then I got a testimonial. Because I needed one for the applications for masters, and it was like, actually, people do value you and see you, and part of me thinks I don't see myself, or I don't value myself. That's the barrier. It's the self-love that has to come first.
Yeah,
that's kind of scary if you start thinking like that. Can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? See. And now, maybe the next step for me is the self-love part. Yeah, it's almost been about punishing me. Fail 3 times. Now I think I told someone I've got to catch up. So, no weekends for the next 3 years would make up for all the failures and the screw-ups. And it is, for me at least, I feel like it's punishment and catch-up. But
Catching up to what, though?
this is it. I mean, exactly. What am I catching up to? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I feel like there's no need to catch up. We're all doing our own direction, our own path in life.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, I feel a lot of pressure, and it doesn't really stop. And I had issues with my health at the beginning of the year related to this pressure, and if I don't take my foot off the pedal, life will find a way to make me slow down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew someone that also got quite sick, and I said, yeah, well, it's the universe telling you something. You have to slow down.
100. I can fully relate to that. I don't know if I'll be able to edit it into the video, but I think in my second year varsity, towards the end, I was just studying. I forgot to eat. I lost 10 kilos in a month because I wasn't taking care of myself, bro. Just putting too much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to pull back. Otherwise, life will force you to.
Yeah, no, and it's better to catch it earlier than later. Yeah. And it, I don't know why we do it. That is a better question. Because for me, I do think sometimes it's a form of punishment because I feel maybe even a bit guilty or ashamed for not making the most of my opportunities when I was during those 3 dropouts. And maybe I don't think I'm strong enough. And to be totally honest, it's astounding to find out that I am strong enough.
Yeah, you made it all the way here.
And I'm doing quite well, beyond anything I could have ever dreamed. And the next thing is what's crazy now? I keep going even further. So it's now, okay, a degree with distinction, but I don't know if that's enough for me now. It's now a competition with myself. It's a bit of it's a love-hate thing now, because I'm also volunteering and I'm also pushing my body to the limit, and it's like, how far can my mind go? How far can my body go? But there's now also this bit of sadistic side in me that's, I feel like I am punishing myself sometimes. Yeah, work more. That voice maybe that you always thought was you're not good enough. You're a failure. And that is incredibly hard to get rid of, at least in me. Yeah.
You're not alone. It's a very big task.
And also you can't exclude the fact that maybe that is what it requires to be successful. Because if you fail and you fail and you fail and you really are a failure at that moment, and the world says, no, but you're great. And then I take it on and say, okay, I'm great. I don't think I would have done anything. I would have just, because you need the feeling that there is a substandard performance and you have to fear doing that. That is what it takes to be excellent. Because if you don't have that fear, why on earth would you do anything? You might as well just do nothing then, right?
It's that optimal level of stress, just enough to get you doing something,
Yeah, well, I mean, I like to see how far that goes, and it can go really far. You can keep loading it. And yeah, I suppose maybe, like you said, what's the next thing? And it's a worthy cause, but I also want to find out how far I can go. What is the absolute limit? Is it 18 hours of work a day for a couple of weeks? And if I pull that off, can I pull that off whilst doing volunteering? Can I pull that off whilst doing my master's? Can I do that whilst working? It's how far is the human potential? And then sooner or later someone say, well, Anthony, it's not all about work. Yes, I agree. you know,
As long as you know that.
I do.
I was about to pause you.
what is more interesting to me is I want to treat the experience as an experiment. So
Okay.
the only reason I can speak to you now and tell you that you're capable of unbelievable things is because I am literally testing it on myself. And I know this because I can tell you that I failed and I was a failure. And the only thing that gives me credibility in these words value is that I'm now doing the total opposite. So the narrative can be changed. This is like an incredibly powerful message. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this, but like you can flip the script on your life.
Yeah, a lot of people need to hear this.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm astounded because I would have never said, it's like, if you take a snapshot of me 5 years ago, it's like, I don't even know what to say to the guy, me 5 years ago, because nothing I could say to him would make him believe he would be here. He would never believe it. Not a chance, not a chance. And yeah, so like I said, this is an experiment. I'm enjoying it, to be honest. I do take strain. I get tired. But as part of, I mean, someone on an adventure, you know, if you launch off into space and you're alone, it's like you have to be brave, and you might be the first, but you know that people are watching, and they'll be comforted by the first, and then there'll be the second and the third. It's the same story with the world record for the 100-meter race, right? They never thought they could break, I think it was 10 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
The first person broke it. What happened after that?
They kept breaking it.
Yeah. Right. And this happens on like so many levels. Is you break that mold. You let everyone else the permission to do it. You let their mindsets change, their perspectives. And I suppose you can't predict what happens after that, but that's my personal journey at the moment, is where I'm at least trying to position myself. And it's a mysterious thing because it's not like I'm a professional athlete. I'm now like a personal growth athlete. Like if you see me exhausted and drained, you know I'm stretching the limits of my own true potential. And as far as I can tell, there's no limit. Yeah.
The question I have, is it worth it to you?
I mean, it should be. It should be.
If it is, then I see no problem with it.
I'm not sure it is. But maybe I am looking for something of worth.
Okay.
And I've attached my worth to me growing consistently. I'm not sure how else you can attach your worth to all sorts of things in life, but mine is that. So that, unfortunately, means I just don't get to rest much.
No, I feel like
it's where my enjoyment comes from growing. It's like you just study everything. You work nonstop. So I do need to find the balance. Yeah.
100%. As long as you know
there's
a balance that needs to be found.
No, I do.
You raised an interesting point earlier that I just want to circle back to.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you did the other degrees partly, and you somewhat feel that there should be some kind of reward for somebody who does go through that.
Yeah.
What would you say is the appropriate reward? Because to be fair, like you didn't see the degree through, so how can they hand you the certificate?
Yeah. So look, each degree is broken down into individual courses. So why do we have a system in place that is so strict that you have to commit 3 years of your life when each little course was that NQF rating for that many hours that could be on its own a thing? So what universities do, you transfer and they give you credits for those courses, and that's cool. I appreciate that. But yeah, if I don't know what it could be. You got to start thinking a little bit unconventionally about these things. Like, can I add them up to make a different degree? Well, not really, because some of them are too diverse. But if you do BCom and you cross over to law, it's like there are degrees that are BCom law. So I can't see why you can't just mesh them together. Someone needs to be a little bit more empathetic about life here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just me, but like someone could go 2 years through a 3-year degree and then have a serious medical condition. It's like, we can't just, I mean, come on, rule that out. Their whole experience, like, okay, sorry, you start again in a different degree. Or you come back. Now you know what happens is you feel trapped by what you already did, that you have to commit and go back to that degree. You can't do something else because the credits are invested there.
Mm.
So that also the system is like, commit, do all of them there. And if something happens or your life changes or your priorities change, unfortunately, you still have to come back to this thing.
Yeah.
And that's okay, fine. I play that game. We've done that.
The system's flawed in the fact that it believes everyone knows exactly what they want to do.
Yes, of course. This is the weirdest thing to me. 3-4 year commitment is long when you're 18, and your idea of the world changes whilst you're studying. I mean, you become more, you're gaining wisdom as you're learning, and it's like, wow, there's a podcasting studio at UCT. Maybe I want to go and study film and media. Well, sorry, buddy, it's too late now. So that's the interesting part. So the way I see degrees, you just study, you do whatever the hell you want after that. Don't worry so much about the degree. Okay. Is there any last questions?
I feel like we covered most of it, if not all.
Who got a lot out of me. I have not spent enough time, to be honest, asking the question why I do what I do. And it's weird because I spend a lot of time thinking and a lot of time trying to solve stuff.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of time also trying to find my inner self. But then ultimately, it's like, what are we searching for? Probably meaning and purpose, at least for me. That's what it is right now. So where I look for meaning and purpose is the work side of things. It's growing. Connecting is always great.
Mm.
But I take it too far.
I feel like the most important thing, from my perspective, is to shoot for reaching the end of each day and being either happy with yourself or the direction you're going. One of the two. If you're not happy with where you're at least be happy with where you're going.
Yeah.
Then you know you're on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, okay, good. I can do happy with myself. Where I'm going is a bit confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing, but nobody has all the answers.
Yeah. And I will say this though, if you are comfortable and you're certain of your direction, just be careful because that's also dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it's tempting to just not question and stick to it.
You don't want to be like a horse with blinds on and you can't see anything else.
Yeah. And this was the fear. I did my undergrad in construction. I should have just done my honors in construction management or quantity surveying. But at that point, I reached that point and thought that is the comfortable decision. And I actually want to learn material science, but that's another risk that I could fail again. And I took that risk. So I'm not even sure how I convinced myself to do that, because you fail 3 times, you finally get a bachelor's degree. The most obvious decision is to do the honors related to the bachelor's.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. And what's incredible is that my marks have been better than good, even in material science. And that's, like I say, I'll keep trying to find more in me because it's there.
Yeah.
And what I'm starting to realize is the fear that's actually holding me back. Fear of all sorts. But the fear of failure would have kept me, I would have done the construction management, would not have changed. But get rid of all those fears and it's like, wow, you could do or be anything, really.
Yeah,
really.
we're all capable of a lot. It's just the mental blocks we impose on ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether we're conscious of it or not. I think we should wrap things up.
Yeah, let's call it.
Thank you
Thank you,
for
Stefan.
showing up on my podcast.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
Thank you, Stefan, behind the camera.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I appreciate. Oh, the questions are intense. I must say. Like, we got 1 minute. Yeah, I'll give you something just before we wrap up. Like, when you're forced to interrogate yourself, it's actually pretty scary, even for me, because some of these questions firstly, you haven't asked yourself before, and secondly, you're sharing them as immediately as they come into your mind. And I'm that person, so I know it's just cogs are turning, and now the rest of my day will be different because now I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good that I need to actually question these things as well. Yeah.
It's scary but important.
Yeah.